Could be
Told you
food.
there might be stuff
Amanda,
inside.
there could be food in there. We could eat.
Oh my gosh, a watch! Whoa, awesome! A watch! Whoa, this is totally cool. That's an awesome watch! Whoa, neat.
Mom, that's so dang cool. What is it?
Well, look. It's so cute. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Cute little crayon, guys.
Aly and AJ, we're here at Webster Hall in New York City and just want to say thanks for being here. I know you guys are on tour in support of the Touch of the Beat album. And there's a selection of like mostly vintage watches on the table, so I'm super curious to hear like each of your stories, how that kind of watches came into your lives.
Well, AJ, you should kind of start, because I think it all started with a conversation that was had at a wedding.
Yeah, yours specifically.
Yeah, I guess it was my
Aly
wedding.
got married in Portofino to Stephen Ringer, my brother-in-law. And it was kind of a talking point that weekend when we were in Portofino that none of us had like an heirloom, like a family heirloom.
That was
Like,
being
there
passed
nothing
down
being
to
passed
me or
down,
him.
which is no diss to our parents, but I
Kind
just
of.
was a little bit. I was like, guys, why is there not a kind of family, item? And we started talking about watches, like literally in Italy, just randomly kind of discussing, well, what would be something that we would want to see our kids for generations passed down from wedding to wedding to wedding?
Or that they could wear a watch on their special wedding day.
Okay.
Something in that realm.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started. And so we're creating an heirloom tradition. We're creating a family tradition that our parents didn't establish.
And that they're acquired in a way that's celebrating some kind of an achievement or a special moment that we want to kind of bookmark in our life.
Sure.
So a lot of them have very specific meaning. But I do think that there is something really special about, owning a vintage watch that has had this prior life before, and now you're kind of giving it its new life.
Sure.
My wedding ring is also vintage as well. So for whatever reason, I think we just have an affinity towards old things that have stories and have a past. And I think we also appreciate the way that they were made and designed. There's just something different. Maybe you talk about your first watch and I'll talk about mine.
So it all started with the AP.
Okay.
This watch is incredibly special to me. It's funny because I wasn't seeking a watch at the time, but I was on Hodinkee and a 1971 Audemars Piguet watch came up for $2,200 and I freaked out and I wanted it so bad. And I let it just kind of sit and then I lost out on it. And
She hasn't been able to find it
I haven't
since.
been able to find it since. It's actually going to be your mission if you don't mind, everyone here on the crew.
I know people.
Good.
Yeah.
And instead, I figured that, well, AP is definitely like, that's something I want to watch to start out with. And this became that watch. And in 2018, I booked the lead of my first television show on ABC called Schooled, and I decided this was kind of that watch to commemorate that moment. So Disco Volante, 1959.
Favorite watch name, by the way.
It
is a
is
great watch
unreal.
name.
Yeah.
The flying saucer, it's so special. I mean, the movement, like, that is like wafer thin.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It's crazy.
2003 movement. It feels feminine. It feels fresh. It feels like it's my piece that I can wear on stage every night and feel like I did something ritualistic before going on stage.
It's so you. When I think of a watch design, it's very AJ.
Once I lost out on the Hodinkee watch, I got all bummed. But then Eric was in our life at that time, so Eric helped source.
We're talking about Eric Wind,
Yes.
good friend of all of ours.
And Alan Bedwell as well.
Okay.
Is a good friend. And this became my first watch, and it's kind of the commemorative piece of the show I was on,
That's a great
which is no longer on the air, but
the watch
But
is
now
still
you got the
here.
watch.
the watch is still
the
here.
watch is still
yeah,
here.
the watch I'm considering that's in syndication.
Shows end, watches are forever.
That's right.
You know? So I guess we can swing this pendulum back and forth. Now, Aly, I'm going to throw the same question to you. So what was the first watch in your collection?
So funny enough, me and AJ both went gold. The Omega Constellation. I love this watch so much. The funny story about this watch was my husband was going to a Hodinkee pop-up in Beverly Hills. But I don't really know what Hodinkee is at this point.
Okay.
Like, we've talked about his love for watches and that he's like getting into it. But I'm like making fun of the name, like no offense, you know? And I'm like,
None
Hodinkee.
taken.
I'm like, what is this? And he's like, just come to this pop-up. It's like, it's gonna be cool. We'll have like a nice dinner in Beverly Hills after. You can have a martini. So I go and I see this like sitting out And I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous. And I just like took it off and I was like, oh, I think I'm into watches. And I just like put it on. And Steven's like
She's like,
laughing.
yep, I'm a watch girl now.
And he's like, that's a beautiful watch.
It's stunning.
And I think the bracelet is so beautiful. And I just think it's so feminine. Obviously, a man can wear this watch too, but I really love gold in general. Most of my jewelry is gold. So I think that was my perfect entry point to get into watches, was that, okay, yes, I appreciate what a watch does in terms of its function, but I love that it looks like a piece of jewelry.
Sure. All right, AJ, back to you. We have our all gold AP.
Yep.
What do we do next?
Patek.
Okay.
This watch is so special. 1934, this is a 404J. The provenance behind this watch is pretty spectacular. It was owned by a man named Henri Dallier,
Okay.
who was a pilot. He flew a seaplane from Cherbourg to Senegal, and he was the first pilot to fly that distance.
Wow.
And so when he was done with his trip, this is what he was gifted. Knowing that this was, held on to by someone who did something incredibly great is something that I love wearing every night, because I can take on the energy of, I'm an actor. So
Sure.
It's like I put on that watch and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
I go up on stage and I do what I do every night. What he did was something way more incredible than anything I'll ever do. But I just have a lot of respect for someone who owned that kind of watch.
And it's amazing to have the engraving like that so you can always see it. I mean, that's really
I know.
fantastic.
I know.
All right, so let's go back the other way.
Okay,
Aly.
my number 2. So this Cartier tank from the 70s was always a watch that I wanted to have in my collection, because when I think of Cartier, I think of like old Hollywood, and I think of just every woman. If you want to own a watch as a woman, I feel like a Cartier tank is like never a miss.
Sure.
I do need a black alligator strap though for this, for a dressier
do.
switch up,
You
which
do.
I don't have. But I told my husband, I was like, let's get on that for Christmas. But but I just love this watch so much, and he actually gave this to me commemorating the beginning of the production for A Touch of the Beat, gets you up on your feet, gets you out and then to the sun.
Oh, which I forgot to say is that's also a commemorative watch of that record.
So these
we
both of these watches commemorate your
yes,
new record.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. AJ just gave that to herself, and I was gifted
Okay.
this. But I guess it's like whatever. It's all in the family.
That takes us to the Cartier Vendome. This actually represented my 30th birthday. Again, a gift to myself.
Yeah.
All of my watches are gifts to
You
myself.
give yourself great gifts.
I don't rely on
doing
anyone
good
to give me
gifts.
gifts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's an independent woman.
I
Yeah,
am.
it's really good gift giving.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I should like
You should
engrave it
engrave
on the back
notes to yourself.
to myself.
on each
That's
one.
good.
From AJ to
Yeah.
AJ.
We've never given each other a watch. Maybe that's in our future.
Tanks.
That'd be dope. Yeah, just like keep going. Keep
Totally.
collecting.
But this is beautiful. This is from the 70s. There's no like crazy special story, but I love this watch and I just think it's so beautiful. I mean, the blue is stunning and it just speaks to me. I love Cartier and I wanted to own a Cartier watch. So I went with Vendome.
How often do you wear this watch?
I wear that one quite a bit because
Yeah.
it's so good with blue jeans. It's like t-shirt, jeans,
Sure.
boots. It just feels like a very day-to-day watch. I mean, because this one is so flashy, this becomes my evening watch, but that's very much like my daytime vibe.
So now I'm looking at the only like non-vintage watch really on the table,
right here.
which is an Autodromo. How do we get into Autodromo?
I know, super
from here?
random, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great watch, especially because it's an affordable watch. I know some people get a little bit scared trying to get into, collecting watches because they're like, well, where do I start? And like, this might cost me $5,000. But basically, we bought this watch for a music video for a song called Pretty Places.
Okay.
That is based on a road trip. And so we wanted something that had to do with, an automotive twist. And obviously Autodromo
Sure.
is known for that. What I love about this watch being in the video was that we weren't quite sure how we would get a Daytona into the music video because we actually have a lyric line in the song that says, we could pack up our house, get out of town, drive across country, one tail light out.
You wouldn't need anything else now, would ya? Just all my books and your old Daytona. Yeah, it's fine.
So anyway, so at this point in time, obviously I didn't own a Daytona until I did.
Right.
But I was just wearing this as like a, I don't know, like a little ode to...
And to get into character.
Being on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've worn it since then, like sort of casually?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great watch. It's a little bit more masculine of a watch for me, but I actually think it looks really cool on a girl.
I love it.
We got time. Sit back and I'll drive you to the pretty places.
So let's move away from the table for a second because you're both wearing watches. Are each of these watches going to be worn tonight when you perform?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? You want to choose
Well,
for us?
you need to see our wardrobe tonight.
Yeah,
to
we can
really.
show you our
Okay,
wardrobe.
so we'll
But
wait until we
we've
have the
had our
whole
eye
situation.
on these tonight.
Okay.
I don't know. So this is from Eric, and this was sent to me before the tour started.
Okay.
So this has been very special. Omega Constellation. It's really, really special. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. And this kind of commemorates the Touch of the Beat tour. So it's like I've got my first TV show. I've got my, record. I've got the tour. It's like, it's all really
We
special.
got the studio watch and the tour
The studio
watch.
watch, the tour
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, different medals.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Daytona a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're wearing it now. You wrote the lyric about
It's
it.
so special.
Yeah, this is like a dream come
I'm like,
true.
is your
girl.
collection better?
What?
Oh.
I think they're pretty.
No, they're equal
Uh-oh.
in their own way.
Well, I want Danny to answer that.
He's not gonna say which one's
Let's
better.
not put me in that position.
This is a 2002 116520. What I love so much about this Daytona is that it feels like a masculine watch, but it's a little bit feminine because of the cream face.
Sure.
And there's just something about it. It's like it's a perfect watch. It's like a watch that I'll always keep. I'll never get rid of this watch.
It is. It's a watch that wears, even though it's 40 millimeters, it wears kind of smaller too, which is great. And I think it's fantastic. And you clearly wear it. You're not babying that
No,
watch.
no, I'm not at all. Which
Yeah.
I also kind of like about when people, obviously you want to be delicate with certain watches because you're like, look, that is like a very expensive watch or rare watch. But I do think that there's something great to be said about people that just like wear their watch and it gets a little beat up and that's okay. And there's patina and there's age. I freaked out when I got this because I got it on Christmas Day in Big Sur from my husband. He's really given me a lot of watches. I got to give him a watch.
There's a competition going between your husband's gift giving to you and AJ's gift giving to
herself.
Correct. I'm married to myself.
Yeah. So we have a watch on the table that it's not really AJ's, not really Aly's, but why is it here?
So it's Steven's watch. It's
Yeah,
Aly's
my
husband's
husband.
watch, and I got it for him. He had been doing so much for our band. He's our creative director. He's like our liaison. He's like a huge part of our every rollout when it comes to our record making. And I wanted to gift him a watch. And this one just stood out. I was like, this is Steven's watch, no question.
And he was like speechless.
It's a Patek, and
It's a Patek,
it's like 1920s?
1922.
Amazing.
And supposedly it was owned by the steel tycoon Henry Phipps, which is very cool. We still have yet to hunt down a photo of him wearing it, but it was bought by his family member. And I love this watch so much.
I love it.
It's really distinct.
I love it so
It's
much.
so distinct.
Yeah.
He
It's
was
also
working
so-
so
it's
hard.
also
I was like,
him.
we're getting him a watch.
I've worn this a few
And then,
times,
yeah.
but I also get, I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for something that.
Was
Right.
this maybe your watch tonight?
I could rock this tonight.
As a
It
special-
would look great with the maroon suit.
I know. So, Danny, we want you to choose our watches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's explain what we're wearing.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
wish
explain.
I want to show them a photo, but
No pressure. All right.
Um,
Okay.
we're wearing Italian suiting every night on
All right.
stage. Tonight, we're going to go with a kind of purple,
Maroon. Tweed.
yeah.
And
We kind of,
I think we're gonna match.
I think we should kind of match tonight.
Yeah.
And both wear the
That
purple.
helps me a little bit.
So then that should guide, if it can.
Well, I mean, all right, off the bat, Italian maroon. I'm thinking gold. I'm thinking Disco Volante for AJ.
Yeah,
That's my choice.
Okay.
That was easy.
Okay.
Now, for Aly, it's tough because I'm going to narrow it down immediately to two watches.
Yeah.
We've got the Omega
Yeah.
and we've got the Patek.
Yeah. I'm feeling that too. Yeah.
I kind of think this will look awesome with
Let's do
maroon.
it. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
All right.
love
And
that.
I've never
You've
worn
never
this
worn
on stage.
Steven's
Okay.
watch on
This will be your
stage.
first time on stage.
Amazing.
You
Let's
might
do
be
it.
a little scared, but
Let's do it.
I think it's worth it.
I think
It's
it's worth
all in the name of talking watches.
It is. It
I love
is.
it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for picking.
Pretty places. Pull us away.
I know that you guys are aware of Hodinkee. Are there talking watches episodes that you've seen that you like, in the past that have been ones that stand out for you?
The Goldberg.
Goldberger
Yeah.
one
is
just-
a classic.
That's iconic.
Yeah.
Also, I wish that I had the nerve to just pop open.
Like,
Knife
could you
open-
imagine
knife
if we
open
were
a
just
case
like
back.
cheese
Yeah.
knife?
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
a really
his is great. I think John Mayer's are both great. I know that
Same.
that was kind of the beginning.
He's
that,
done it twice,
that first
right?
one.
Yeah, he has
this
done it
guy's done
twice. Yeah.
twice. But we got to get more women. We got to get.
We gotta
get
Although,
more
although I
women.
guess it's not like it's up to you guys. It's like there's got to be more women collectors or feel like they're not afraid to, wear a watch or ask about how to get
Right.
into collecting watches. Like it's more of a masculine thing. It's like guys are known for wearing watches.
Yeah, what is your take on that? I mean, like to the prospective female collectors out there, like what is your sort of advice into getting into a world that feels like it could be unapproachable sometimes?
Yeah, it could be a little daunting to
Yeah.
be like, I'm going to step into this world, but I don't really know where to go to first,
Yeah.
or like, I'm not educated on this, so I feel afraid to talk or ask about it.
Yeah. No, we definitely were kind of intimidated at the start. Like
Yeah.
but we ended up just kind of being honest about everything we wanted to ask. And once you are real about your questions, you'll receive honest feedback.
And
So-
I think if you have a great person that you can go to that is a great watch dealer, like that's just half the battle right there.
Sure.
Where you find somebody that's trustworthy.
but for females, I actually would say to start with Cartier.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I just think that it's not intimidating for females because everyone loves their jewelry.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes this thing where it's like, if you have the love bracelet and you're like, maybe I want to add a watch to that. Like, I just think that that's a good starter for someone who's like, I don't know what AP is, or I don't know what
it's,
tech is.
Yeah, and I think it's just timeless. I don't think you're ever going to look at that and be kind of like, why do I have this in my collection?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not a cheap move to just be like, but
No.
here's your first watch, drop a few grand. But I think it's worth it. But I guess also it depends on if you're getting a new Cartier or if you're getting a vintage one.
Right.
Yeah.
The older that you're getting, obviously, the more you might spend for that. So I think it depends.
All right, so just looking at the entire collection here, what I'm interested in is sort of both of your approach to collecting, because not only are these mostly vintage, but they're vintage with specific provenance. It seems like provenance and the story behind the watch is important to both of you. Was that something that you thought about getting into it, or is that something that sort of happened over time?
I think it kind of happened over time.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, I agree.
we started to realize that we liked having the stories behind them. And I think that ultimately, if you're looking to collect watches that hopefully raise in value, having that story and having it be attached to someone of provenance, I think is
Yeah.
important.
I also think being storytellers and songwriters, it was important that these watches had a life previously to us. I think I'm not against owning a brand new watch. That's something that I'm going to be on the hunt for. But I also feel like kind of taking on the story of someone else's life is so interesting. And then explaining that to, future generations to come is really cool. I think we own a watch that has its own provenance. We have a Hamilton that was passed down from our great grandma Wetzel, our mom's mother. And she was a classical pianist
In the silent movie.
in the
era.
silent movie.
Oh,
era.
wow.
And she was kind of the first of our family to start a career in entertainment. And so no one else from her to us has done that in our family.
The watch is really beautiful and in
gorgeous.
great shape. So
I'm
that's
like,
kind of
that's
cool.
a really cool story.
that we have that. I
Yeah.
guess that's maybe the one watch that we have in our family.
So there is an heirloom.
There is an
heirloom.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, there's an heirloom.
There is.
We did it. Wow.
we
it took
solved
Talking
it.
Watches
Yeah.
to figure out we
figure
have
out
an
we
heirloom
actually
with
do.
provenance
Yeah,
because she is a
that's right.
classical pianist.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.